Goonhammer has partnered with Legalized Mischief to present you with Colin Ward's long-form painting videos. Like and subscribe, and follow Legalized Mischief and Goonhammer for more hobby tutorials.
Hey everyone, it's Colin with Legalized Mischief Productions. Thank you for joining me and welcome. And today we're going to be starting on a new tutorial series. I'm not quite sure what to call it yet. At this time of recording, I just don't have a title or anything because this project is this is like coming together on camera. So I got this idea a couple weeks ago. I bought some little boxes which will make an appearance on the Patreon as well as this Shadowbox. And as you know, I focus mostly on army painting. What I spend my time doing is painting armies of models. That's presumably one of the reasons you're here, is to learn, techniques and efficiencies when it comes to army painting. And so for me, that's my main focus. And from time to time, but like anybody else, I look at guys that I follow and I admire, and I look at painters that do busts, that do dioramas, that do really crazy non-metallic metal, and all these different techniques, super grimdark stuff, like all these techniques that it's not how I necessarily approach my hobby. It's not how I approach painting in general. But it's something that, I like looking at, and it's something that I am inspired by. And, it's just, I just really like it. I like seeing what different people do, with the tools that we're given, right? With paint and models. So, some of it's pretty out there, some of it's pretty conceptual, but, I like it all. So for me, I don't do projects like that too often. I do mostly, like I said, I do mostly armies, which you well know. So part of the reason for getting those boxes, getting the shadow box, was to kind of have my brain, instead of thinking about, okay, what's the next army, what the color scheme is going to be, what's the basing going to be, how am I going to tackle it, what units, this and that. I wanted just to kind of let my creativity kind of float a little bit and think of different ways to use either the shadow box or these little wood boxes that I got that, of course, I left in the closet of opportunity. And today I had an idea. So I started getting the rough sketches of the idea out, and I am really, really excited for it. So I decided to film it for you. And the idea is to take kind of a snapshot of a hive spire in any imperial city on any world at any time, like just the anonymous, kind of like the crushing anonymity of the Imperium of Man. And you'll see what I mean. So that's kind of the field. I am not going to be worried about painting an army. That's part of what is enjoyable and I think useful about doing a project like this, instead of working on an army, just taking a break, and not a break working on another army, but a break. And so this is going to be focusing on technique. This is going to be focusing on just playing and just trying new things, trying new materials, trying to evoke different emotions and different I don't know. It's just trying new stuff and being free to do that, because it doesn't have to be in an army. I'm not going to be responsible for duplicating this. I'm not going to be responsible for making this work across infantry, monsters, tanks, whatever. This is going to be literally a self-contained project, but this is going to be a one-off, one-time maybe thing that I just want it to look cool. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if this doesn't work out, right? I want it to be fun to do. I'm confident it'll work out in some way in the end. But if it doesn't, that's fine, So I'm out some time and some materials. But in the meantime, I want to try new things, and I want to explore this idea. So what we're going to do... So first thing we're going to do is take off needs to be clean, but we're going to take off the main part of the shadow box. The way this is built, the glass is in there. The glass is not going anywhere, so that's not an option. And this just lays in here, and then there's a groove back there that these go into. This is not an expensive piece, but it will serve its purpose. Now, this edge here is what holds the backing on, right? So this thickness, I can't really mess. I can't just rip off the foam, right? I have to remove the felt and leave the foam in place, because what I have is some plasticard sheet. This is, I don't know, 1 millimeter thick, I would bet. So this, after it's compressed, is going to be pretty close to the same thickness as the foam. This piece is a little big. So what we're going to do, just in case we damage the foam, what we're going to do is just put that down, and then I have a permanent marker here. Make sure that I want 2 out of 3 sides to be square. Or 2 out of 4, 3 sides. I'm not making a triangle here. 2 out of 4 sides to be square. And I'm not going to do every second of this, like peeling the foam and stuff. So this tutorial is going to start and stop a little bit, but figure that's probably okay, because it's going to be awesome. So that's the area that we have to work with. We're also going to lose about 1/8 of an inch on each side to this border here that's keeping the glass in. So we'll just keep that in mind during the build. But I'll go to straight edge and cut this out. We're going to put this to the side for now. And then we're going to come over here. And this doesn't really have to be exact, but thankfully, as I expected, this is real cheap. So this is just going to come right up. This I bought at Michael's for the Shadowbox. I got at Michael's for, I don't know, $12 or $13 or something. You can find them on Amazon. Super easy. I don't know that I really have to get all this stuff off, but I'll try. Okay, that's neither here nor there. I can do that in my own time. I'm sure what you're curious is like, what the hell is he talking about? A snapshot of the Imperium. So, one of the things that, while I talk, so one of the things that has kind of inspired this has just been reading the Solar War series, talking about the palace, and just kind of the scale of that. The scale of the Solar War series is just incredible, right? It's not a battle, it's not a play, it's like the entire solar system, and walls bigger than Titans, and entire chapters going to war. It's just, the scale is just insane, right? So just thinking about 40K on that kind of scale has been really cool. And then also reading, a while ago, I read a book, obviously like Eisenhower, Ravener, those deal with similar kind of themes of, just the kind of dystopian hellscape that the Imperium of Man is for most people, right? Like for most Imperial citizens, it's not great. Life's not great. And one of the books that I've also read, sorry, I'm adjusting this because, of course I am. Another book that I read recently that was really good was Bloodlines by Chris Raitt. And that takes place, it's like a, gumshoe. It's a detective novel. It was pretty good. It wasn't the best detective novel I've ever read. The ending was somewhat predictable, but it was really good. I really, really enjoy stories about just Joe Schmo, Imperial citizens environment in 40K. I think it's fascinating. So, Bloodlines is really good for that. And just the kind of the daily grind of a citizen, right? So that's what I want to kind of evoke. So, ta-da! Plastic card is going to get cut and then is going to get attached to this, which is then going to go in here. Don't worry, I'm not like a painter. I can't paint a picture to save my life. So instead, recently I traded for a Grandmaster edition of Adeptus Titanicus. And when you get the Grandmaster edition, this was the original release for Adeptus Titanicus, you get a couple Warlord Titans, some Knights, and you get some terrain. And these are Civitas Imperialis tiles. So what these are buildings. And you cut them out. These are the roofs of the buildings. You have some, buttresses, some flying buttresses. This is the roof that has there should be a little like, antenna or something for the top. All these kind of Gothic windows, these larger pieces. Pretty cool. Pretty neat. So, I had the idea, what if, to make a snapshot of a hive spire, right? Keep that in mind as we go along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these tiles are going to be kind of the basis, but I'm going to, as you're going to see, I'm going to incorporate a lot of different things too. But the baseline material is going to be these tiles. And so they come in like 3 or 4 different sizes. You have these little single story pieces, and then you have these larger kind of the 2-story, and then you have kind of the 3-story. Well, and then the nice thing about these is they overlap, so you can get kind of a seamless. And we're also going to fall off the edge, right? So I'm going to have to cut these to fit. We also have these roof sections, like this one has some cool vents and some turbines. So what we can do with that is, and this is going to require a lot of moving pieces around, a lot of trial and error, and just experimenting to see what I like, to see what works. We can put another larger piece here. It doesn't overlap perfectly, but whatever. Again, this is This is not like a really well thought out planned hive. This is not, this is not the upper hive. This is kind of the middle hive. This could be the side of any building, not building, but like a hab, and like a decent one, I guess, by imperial standards, because maybe the windows are nicer or whatever, but barely. So what I want to make sure is that I'm not using stuff like this where you have like giant doors, because then I would have to build a balcony or something, and then it would just get new. But a lot of these do have doors on them. These little one-part dealies don't really. But again, like, the whole point of this is just to not overthink it, be free-flowing, and just build a scene, and just build a, kind of a messed up little corner of the Imperium, right? And these big flat sections of these kind of roof sections, those will come in handy at some point, because we can just fill in with these like so, put another little section here, then maybe a blank, then maybe a little section. I'll probably want to bump this over, so I'm cutting off. I don't really want uniformity in straight lines as far as the edges go. So I'll bump this over so that it's overlapping on both sides. I'll just cut both sides, and that way it gives the impression that it's not like the corner of the building, right? It's any part, any floor of this, anonymous kind of hellscape. So we have these blank areas. Well, that's not, it can be compelling or it can be boring, right? There's a fine line. So we can do something like this. This is part of the industrial terrain set for Titanicus. So I want to use a lot of the Titanicus style stuff because it's in scale with the rest of the Civitas. So if I cut this has a little stairway on the side. If I cut the stairway off, this could be a nice little vent popping out of there. It's going to be important that we're going to add things that come out a little bit as well. There are, like I said, there's those buttresses in there that I'll be able to use as well. Even just like one of these, where did it go? One of these has like a little eagle on the top, right? Imperial eagle. You can see there. Well, this only matches up with like right there. I could just cut this off at the bottom and have a little buttress sticking out there at the bottom. That would be cool. I also have, but I don't just want to use predictable kind of Adeptus Titanicus, you're doing a, Titanicus kind of building or whatever. So here I have, this is also actually from Titanicus, but this is the a power generator terrain piece from Titanicus. And so maybe it's just sticking out the side of the building. It's not like there's a lot of oversight or planning that goes into these things, right? So maybe we get a little bit of that going in there. And then we have, just little bits and bobs like this that can kind of stick out the side as well. I don't know what this is, but, we can put that there. This is actually a shield from an Iron Circle Domitar Ferrum Dreadnought that I used for the Dark Angels Contempt of Cordis tutorial. This is an interesting kind of piece, and it's similar width to, the windows and everything. This could be in our BD section within the hive or something like that. So we can, keep that in mind. Maybe put that up there. Or let's see how it kind of nestles in. Doesn't look completely out of place. We can throw a couple tiles. Throw a tile underneath it there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to map this out ahead of time. Just the kind of basic. I kind of like that. I think that's cool. I think that adds a neat little feature. We can integrate that with some other pieces. And then there's things like here's a industrial, Mechanicum base, 60 millimeter base. Well, that fan is kind of cool. So let's just start chopping up this base. Nice thing is these bases kind of break along the scoring because the plastic's a little thinner there. So it actually ends up working out pretty well. Like this, you can usually just boop. Pro tip, these bases break really clean. Maybe keep that Mechanicum cog there. Who knows? Easier to cut it off later than it is to... Oh, kind of wanted to keep, whatever. Kind of wanted to keep that, but we'll be all right. Kind of uneven, but again, I'm not overthinking this. This is not planned. As you can see, planning was not... Oh, I kind of messed that up too. Okay, well, let's come down here and do this then. Beep. Okay, now we have a little fan with some hoses and a little marking. Okay, let's throw that over here. Well, that's a little close to the, so let's throw it up there. Got a little fan. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, throw this up here. See how that works. Okay, so then we're going to come in here and fill in around the edges. Get some of these blank tiles here, maybe some windows here to kind of tie that in there. Keep that power generator. These are both vertical, so maybe I'll swap that out like so to get a little different on the resin pieces. One's going vertically, one's going horizontally. Something like that. This is why I don't throw anything away. I throw a lot of stuff away, but I keep kind of random cool stuff. These are hoses for Warhound Titan arm weapons. So these connectors go on the back of the Warhound Titan weapon, and they hold these hoses that go to the body. Now, the issue when you're building a Warhound is if you want to be able to magnetize a weapon, which in 28 millimeter, you kind of do, because the odds of you buying to, let alone ever playing to Warhound Titans are probably pretty slim. But if you want that flexibility, you can't do the hoses, right? You'd have to do entirely separate sets of hoses for each weapon. It would be an enormous pain in the ass. So I keep them because, I don't know, but these look an awful lot like, sewer pipe outflows or something. So we can take these and looking at it, from the side, that looks kind of cool. Maybe put them underneath here. Maybe put a couple of them side by side, right? Just to add a little, because we're going to want to add a little bit of height to it as well. And then I have like, this is, let's put this off to the side. Because again, I'm not putting this all together on camera, but I do want to show the kind of bits and stuff that I'm using. So this is one of my bits boxes. This has just a bunch of random stuff in it. You get 2 sets of armor with a Warhound Titan. This is one of the legs that I use to do tutoring or test out schemes and stuff with. It's hard to use this for any kind of terrain or anything, but I keep it around, right? Here's the terrain for Titanicus. I have a lot of the industrial terrain in here. I have some forgeable terrain in here. These I'm going to use. And then here I have like the hoses. These are actually the hoses for Titanicus, or not Titanicus, the Warhound Titan weapons. So what I thought would be cool for this is if I get my heat gun. I can bend, because you see this is really bendy resin. It's supposed to be like that so that you're supposed to heat the whole thing up and then you can bend it however you want for the Titan weapons. But what I want to do, and I'm just dunking it in cold water to kind of freeze it where it's at. There we go. And I can work on this some more, but if I just twist a little right angle in it, then I can come back to my wall section here. And even though it's supposed to be in these, when you're building the Titan, one end of is supposed to go in there, nothing at all says that we have to do that. So I could shave that down. I could come in, and I wish I could get a better top-down view, but this bracket doesn't really let me do that. How I'm filming. Shortcoming of technology, but we're close. So I could come in here, because this is going to end at the bottom of the shadow box. This is a way for it to extend a little bit too. So I can come down here, maybe shave off the end of that, and run this pipe, or run this cabling from this generator down to a different part of the hive, right? Or up. I don't like the up nearly as much as the down, because the gravity of it is easier to explain visually, to have this going down. So I kind of like that. So I'm going to leave that there just to remind myself. I think that's cool. It also helps kind of break up the underlying tiles and kind of visually just kind of change things up. Also, it's important to have elements that extend beyond just the snapshot frame. And what I mean by that is you can either do one of two things. You can have a completely self-contained scene, which is great and very common, or you can have something like this where it's just a section of the side of the Death Star, right? Basically, is what we're doing. So you're going to have elements that go off the scene, and that implies that there is more beyond the frame, that there's more room beyond the frame, because this cable has to go somewhere, right? If the frame cuts off at the bottom of the camera, if the frame cuts off, there, well, where's that cable going? If I'm just starting with like windows on the bottom, you could be like, oh, well, this is just, that's the first floor of a building. But where's this cable going? Right? So it implies that there's more outside the scene. So those elements are important as well. And then, what else do I like? What else do I have? I have some great bits in here. These are part of the bottom of, part of the feet from an Onager Doomcrawler from the AdMech range. These I love. These are great bits. And what I do is you'll cut them like right at that, right there. And then we have more piping. And, piping is going to be important in this project. So maybe we come down here and put, come on. Obviously, I'll glue down the underlying, where's my box? Okay. I'll come down and glue down the underlying pieces before I start adding all this stuff. But, here's making me look bad. Just sit there. Okay. The perils of live television, everybody. Okay. Hey, you get the idea. This really is a great piece. I love this bit. It is a great bit. That's why I have so many of them. Okay, there you go. So, it's just some more piping. It's just some more elevation. The more elevation that we can add this way, the more realistic the whole thing is going to look, and the easier it's going to be to believe it. Here's some little antennas, again, from an AdMech thing. This is kind of the same. This is kind of the same as the back of the. Where did that go? Nope, there it is. It's kind of the same as the back of the buttress there, right? So maybe I can land this in between a couple buildings, right? Here is something that looks kind of like a light of some kind, or a barrel of some kind, or a node, a lot of nodes on the outside of buildings and stuff. So maybe cut that off, flush that out on the back, and then, I don't know, why don't we see what it looks like? Like there's a recessed kind of area in there. Let's kind of throw that in there, mix that up a little bit. Sure. Why not? I feel like the flamer would be a little obvious, but maybe we can cut this in a different way, position it in a different way to where it can just be, like if we cut this off here, it doesn't really look like anything, right? Just put it off to the side there. Maybe that can be a little industrial something. What else do I got here? Whoa, this stuff's really good. This is pewter cabling. I think this is from Dragon Forge, but you can get it a lot of different places. A lot of people use guitar wire. So this is something that could easily be poking out from in between buildings. You bend it, bend it down, have it kind of attached to the side of a building, making its way down, something like that. We'll keep that off to the side. Here's, I don't know, part of a control panel from something, maybe a plane or, Forge World fighter or something. This can go so on the outside there. It's like kind of like, oh, well, let's build the Blade Runner set or something, right? Like, what do you got? This is, I think, from an Imperial Guard searchlight, a little doodad. Doodads are good. Let's throw a doodad on there. Doesn't have to be exact, obviously, because I'm not gluing this stuff down, but boom, little doodad on there. Maybe we can even tie that into that piece. That looks pretty cool. I'm down with that. Whoops. Whatever. And I mean, these pieces are everywhere if you look for them. Some ranges are better than others. AdMech obviously is a really good range for this. Here's part of some Tech Priest guy, but like, this is cool. I might be able to use that somewhere. Definitely could use probably that part of this and maybe even that part of this somewhere. It's important that you don't want to include anything that's like too kind of crazy out of scale, right? You really don't want to, like, I wouldn't want to just slap these missiles somewhere. Those are obviously missiles and they're obviously gigantic, right? We don't need like 200-foot long missiles just hanging out on the side of the building. That's not going to be compelling. But I have around here somewhere, I thought maybe on the Titanicus. Maybe not. Well, I got extra guns from the Questoris Knights. Here's some more like railing from I think these are from Onager Dune Crawlers as well. These are really great little pipes and stuff. And then, oh man, that's a great bit. And obviously, AdMech is a natural fit, right? But Space Marine Range has good stuff. Imperial Knights, you know, I'm sure have good stuff for aimed well. Titanicus, the Titanicus, that'd probably be a cool bit of some kind. So I'll keep looking through this and other boxes that I have, but the last thing that I want to touch on before I go, and then it's going to be a minute while I feverishly build this thing, are these pipes, these set of pipes from Adeptus Titanicus. These are part of the terrain set as well. I'm going to use these, and these things are brilliant. These are just like the pipes that you can get for the 30K set, but obviously in Titanicus scale. And these are going to be perfect for this project. I am going to find a way to integrate these because they're just great. They're going to look really, really good. As you can see over here, they're just going to look really good. And they're going to add a nice industrial element to the outside of this this area. But I'm going to want them to extend, like here we have some broken, you know, they come with little details like this are just fantastic. So they come with like little they get little junctions, and obviously you glue these together as you go. But just picture this, you know, with some broken pipes hanging down. Got just little details like that. And when I build this, we'll come back and I'll kind of go over it and kind of point out the cool little things that I'm excited about. And just go over where we're at. So I'm super excited for this. If you haven't done something like this before, you know, give it a try. It's a lot of fun. So I'm already having fun with it. I wanted this to be 10 or 15 minutes long, and, you know, we're into 40 minutes. So I just get caught up talking about it. It's just really cool. So I'm super excited. I'm going to build this thing, and when I come back, we'll be ready to move on to the next part of painting it. Welcome to part 2 of the Shadowbox vignette diorama tutorial series. Build is finished, and I think it looks pretty cool. So this is the build in the box, obviously. And I think it looks really neat. I think that Gothic feel really comes through. I think it definitely looks like just the side of a building. We have these different elements going off scene that we talked about, different parts of the building going off scene. So I think in that sense, it was very successful. I think it looks really cool. And there's some nice 3D elements. I'll get it out of the box and then, talk about how I built it. And just a couple little nuggets to help to kind of show scale. But I'm really happy with it. I'm really, really happy. It took 4 or 5 hours to build, which is why I didn't film it. It's just a lot of back and forth, a lot of trial and error, shaving pieces, and it's just not... Be like, oh, does this fit? Does that fit? Do I have to shave more of it down? What do I need to do to get this to work? Like, it's not the most compelling content as you're doing it. But it's easy to talk about. So what I did was I trimmed the plastic card to the same size as the backing. I'm not going to attach it to the backing until I'm actually done painting it. There's just no reason to. It's way easier to do when it's just mounted on the plastic card. And then I made markings on the plastic card for these, in order for it to fit on these ledges. I needed the actual model elements to fit snugly on the inside of the frame so that it could be held in place. Otherwise, the whole thing is kaput, as they say. It's a little snug, so I need to probably trim a couple things here or there, but overall, very, very, very close fit. So once I got, those are the permanent marker lines going down the sides. Those let me know where to stop, right? So I just need to fill that space with tiles, with material, right? And so, hang on, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Not zoom, but adjust the focus. So what I did was I started in this corner. This is kind of a big 2-wall section, and I wanted there to be some depth to this. So I left it, if you're familiar with the Civitas Imperialis tiles, let's see if I have one here. I have a piece of one. I put all my stuff away, which is always a mistake. On the back of them, they have these kind of miter joints, basically, to fit with other tile sections. I left those on. Some of the tiles, I cut them off, some of the tiles, but it gives it a nice bit of height to leave those on. So I started in this bottom left corner and just put a piece there, made sure it was square, and then that was the kind of piece that everything else kind of grew from. These pieces were really nice to put down because they have that kind of nice Art Deco. I keep saying nice, but they have an Art Deco aesthetic versus just the kind of high Gothic aesthetic. And this piece is a mirror image of this piece, which extends off the frame. And if you remember from the first video, I talked about when you're doing a snapshot, a little vignette like this, to convey size, you can have it escape the frame, basically. So, and continue off frame. So even though, like, if this piece was just here and the mirror image wasn't above it, unless you knew what this piece was from the Civitas Imperialis, you wouldn't know that it was larger and continuing off the frame. But by putting the mirror image of it above, you can see that, oh, this piece is this long. It's supposed to extend even further down. So it's kind of a way to trick your brain to saying, oh, that there's supposed to be more of this, right? but misaligning them was really important. So typically when you build these buildings, this little row of smaller kind of inset pieces there, these will line up. So cutting this off, lowering it creates that kind of mismatch. I didn't want even floors, right? Even though you could do very easily kind of a pre-planned, very nicely constructed building, which is what I did for like my Adeptus Titanicus tiles. I really wanted to do like a Hive City Spire where it's had repairs, retrofits. It was built hastily from a amalgam of available parts. So, best intentions, but not really a lot of, strong union laborers and a lot of architects on scene, right? So first things first was laying down all these wall tiles, and these are the ceiling tiles from the Civitatis Imperialis. These are the Sector Imperialis bases for 40K that were kind of cut up as kind of filler. This one I wanted to keep some of that on there. Some of those markings on there, I thought they were cool. But this is the largest piece of a base that's on this. Other than that, it's the Civitatis Imperialis wall sections, ceiling sections, and then this is that Domitar Ferrum shield piece. More ceiling pieces here, wall pieces here. And the wall pieces are really cool because they come in 3 different sizes, really. There's this size, which is the bottom half. I guess the bottom 2/3 of this is one size, which is a square piece, and then there are these little single floor kind of pieces here, and then these are the biggest ones. That's really like kind of a floor and a half. So these little pieces are really nice just to kind of fit in there, and then they have the square pieces as well up here. So I just went through and just kind of tiled these, worked with that, then I extended this, put this kind of square piece here, then the shield, then kind of worked out, what was happening here. Moved over here. I made a little damage in the ceiling tile before placing it. Because the thing about placing these flat pieces on the plastic card, once the glue hits the plastic card, the thing's not moving. It's just not going anywhere because, the seal is really good. So you have to be pretty sure when you put it down. Some of these pieces fit really well. Some of them have gaps, but that's fine. Once I prime it and paint it, those gaps are going to be, just they're not even going to be, noticeable. So I didn't need it to be. I didn't do any putty gap filling, anything like that. I just left it kind of raw and untouched. This is a generator terrain piece from Adeptus Titanicus. So that was a really cool element. Originally, when I was planning it out, this was a little lower. And then this Warhound Titan cable was extending off the scene down here. But it was too close. Like having this is a different enough piece from everything else. And this is a different piece from everything else, these resin pieces. I didn't want them touching. Like I didn't want them next to each other and touching. So this was the best place to put it. And then I just had it extend up Hive, basically, which also works. So I did that first layer, filling everything in, making sure that I got, the windows, got the window pieces, everything. It was important to, if you're going to do something like this, make sure if you're using the Civitatis Imperialis buildings, a lot of those pieces have doors on them. Make sure that you don't use any pieces with doors because there would be doors opening up to nowhere on a Hive Spire. Unless you want to build a balcony, which I wasn't about to do. So, because this is not the upper Hive, clearly. So, first things first was tiling all these pieces, using all these wall pieces, getting them all laid out. And then it came time to like detail it, add some vertical elements so that we got a little bit of 3-dimensionality to it. One thing that was really clutch was the industrial the industrial terrain set for Adeptus Titanicus. The name is escaping me right now, but with the silos and the pipes, and that was like one of my greatest hobby purchases ever was that box. It's a box that I used, as the cranes and everything. Box I used for the terrain tutorial for Adeptus Titanicus. It has this little vent thing here, and it has these pipes, which are really, really clutch. So this is one of my favorite parts, actually. I had these blank, these kind of flat blank ceiling tiles going along here and coming out. And I did that on purpose because I wanted a space to attach these pipes. Typically, when you look at them, they're like this. They're on the ground as kind of, oil, natural gas, whatever, pipes. But they also absolutely work vertically as pipes on the outside of a hive or something. So that was important for me to integrate those. Those help give it a little bit of scale. And then at this damage section, I put some pewter kind of wiring coming out of the wall and going down hive, like somebody's, jacking electricity or something. It is close, it's close-ish to a generator. There's more pipes coming out here. So this is kind of a more industrial section of the hive. But I wanted to throw this little piece of plastic card tubing on there, like somebody had intentionally attached it to the wall at that point to like keep it where it was. So even though it's being like siphoned, even though it's coming out of a broken wall and being siphoned down hive, somebody was still like making sure that it was secure. I don't know. It's just like a little patch, a little bit of like, well, we're doing this and it's not cool, but let's make sure that we, do it right. This is more plastic art tubing that I just bent and cut for just some piping. There was kind of an ugly join between these three pieces here. It didn't look it was a little rough. So I just put a piece of plastic art over it. And then again, that Warhound Titan flexible cabling with some more plastic art tubing here as kind of a protective sheath around the tube, around the cabling. And some of these buttresses, this is an upside down buttress, but whatever. These little eagle head buttresses to go between wall sections. I use those in a couple places. And then these are for the ammo. What are these? These are the ammo, like the back of a turret of, I think, a Predator. Space Marine Predator tank, maybe, or a Lehman Russ or something. These are like the ammo boxes. This is actually one of my favorite little bits in this whole thing because this was very plain and kind of standing out until I put those on, and it really helped to integrate it. I don't know if those are evacuation shafts or what those could be in setting, but I think they absolutely work. And they help to integrate this Forge World piece that has totally different angles and different volumes than most of the rest of the pieces. One of the things that I really liked about this kind of Art Deco looking wall as well is these flare-ups here kind of mimic the same lines here. So this isn't an orphan kind of shape-wise. This is a similar shape to this, but this is very clearly part of the wall. This is very clearly, kind of up-armored something else. So, little railings. These are the cable couplings from the Warhound Titan that look like sewer pipe outflows, basically. And put a couple of those on there. I had another one here, but it was too much. It just didn't look right. And then I was looking at it, we have a little kind of whatever that is there. And then I put, little bits and bobs here. And then there wasn't a whole lot, like if you're looking at the windows and stuff, yes, it's in scale and that it's, 6mm scale, Titanicus scale. It's not 28mm scale, right? Like if you actually think about, the fans and all that stuff, but I wanted to add like some familiar elements, just kind of a little Easter egg that where it's like very, very clearly, in 6mm scale or 8mm scale, whatever. And so I found these stubbers. These are from, hang on.
Hey.
So these stubbers are from the Adeptus Titanicus Imperial Knights. Their shoulder weapons. And I just mounted those. And you can see this is like a little recess. Now it almost looks like a little catwalk area back here with a couple defensive kind of stubbers for, protecting this generator from miscreants and hivers. So this is a little control panel, not control panel, but this is a little kind of official looking thing here. These big louvers. So I'm going to make this kind of like an Arbites. What I came to was kind of an Arbites station within this section of the hive. And I'm not going to do too much. I'll probably just put like a number here or something, and maybe one of the Necromunda kind of skull Aquila looking transfers down here, or maybe reverse that, put the Aquila looking transfer and put some letters down here. I'm not sure which one yet, but I really like that idea. I like that there's this kind of fortified position in this wall, but near, a generator and, just a couple heavy stubbers. It's nothing crazy. It's not a last cannon battery. It's nothing, anti-air or anything too wild. Like, it's just some stubbers that, on this little catwalk where guys can come out and keep the peace. So just a little Easter egg like that. And it's something where if you notice, you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's definitely, it's definitely 6mm. It's definitely in universe. And so it was cool. I was really happy with that little touch there. So, all in all, really, really, really happy with this. And now what I'm going to do, get these pieces out of the way. This is the real kind of, not moment of truth, but this is where it really kind of all comes together, which is priming. So before this, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this looks cool, and these pieces look like they work together. Once you prime this, then the plastic and resin pieces meld together, and you can really start to see the piece as a whole instead of just, individual elements. So I'm going to get my airbrush ready and get the primer, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back, and so I'm going to do two-stage priming. It's not actually zenithal priming, it's just priming white over black. Zenithal refers to the zenith of the light source, and so you're priming from the light source. This is going to be universal light source, but it's going to be white over black primer because I want that high contrast to kind of see where I'm at, see all the details, and then it's really accepting of light or dark colors. I think I want to paint this gray before going in with all the
Places.
So, I'm using style lens primer through the airbrush and just kind of opening up and letting it out. First pass is rough. But I want a good coat because we are going to absolutely punish this paint job. There's going to be a lot of materials going, or a lot of different materials going on top of this on top of this paint job, on top of this primer. So we want to make sure that we have a nice even coat of primer kind of underpinning it all. That way we don't have to worry, you know, down the line. So I'm not gonna be able to see in there, but just in case. Go in with chance. Yeah. So, okay. Oh, just get under there. Get under there. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good so far. This has really come together like yesterday and today, so I'm going to sleep on it, look at some older artwork, and just kind of noodle what color I want to paint this. Hang on one second, this is going to be loud. Just using a hairdryer to speed up the process here, so one sec. Okay. So I don't need to keep the hairdryer on it. Just heating it up is going to help everything dry. And look at that. We're already, we're already way out of focus. Nah, wrong way. Okay, what's going on here? Ooh, there we go. Already looking good. Just wait. I'm so excited. This is going to look a little uneven. It's going to look a little kind of weird. That's okay. White primer is usually hella thin, so that's why we're doing it over black, but also for that high contrast. So, again, not really zenithal, just kind of a high contrast prime. This is yours. Hacks. There we go. Sad. And of course now I need to turn down. Oh. Ah. There we go. I wonder if I can just actually. And if I just come back here and go like this. Yoink. There we go. Much better. Look at that. That looks cool. Come on. That looks pretty neat. Whoa. Whoa. There you go.
Hey.
Okay, so as you can see from behind, from the white paper behind this, it's definitely didn't end up white. It's just, now we can see, gosh, I'm so sorry about the focus. I don't know why I'm struggling so much with that today. So now we can see all of these details. They're all integrated. This looks like the side of a building, right? Like if we zoom in and kind of do a cinematic, like, ooh. Ascending up the highs, right? Like, it looks cool. So I'm super excited about this. This is really cool. I'm happy I decided to do this. I'm really happy with how it's turned out so far. Some of these lines are a little rough, but that's okay. I think it looks cool. Let's check it out without getting, too frustrated. Just see what it looks like in here. Yeah, that's gonna look rad when it's done. Oh, come on. There we go. Yeah, that is gonna look rad when it's done. Look at that. How cool is that? I'm excited. All right, so part 2 is done. We primed up. We're ready to go. Like I said, I'm going to sleep on it. I'm going to think about what I want, how I want to tackle painting it. I think it's going to be, fast and loose, quick airbrush base coat, and then I'm going to go in with different kind of washes, glazes, acrylics, and then enamels, oils, the whole 9 yards. Pigments. It's going to get funky. So stay tuned. We're going to be painting what I've called Dermis Imperia. The skin of the Imperium. This is a little cutout vignette. The build of which I've shown on here before. So this is it primed. And ready to paint. I don't know exactly what's going to happen with it. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I know there's going to be a lot of texture and a lot of oils, enamels, things like that. So some things that I do want to do are a little bit of hazard striping on the kind of bastion here, and like these skylights
and then a lot of scorching and stuff around the vents, and then a lot of fluids, a lot of, pigments and things like that. So I think first things first, we're just going to lay down. Do I want to do that, or do I want to do, let's do a little bit of hazard striping. I think overall it's going to be kind of a pale green. Kind of desaturated, pale, kind of industrial turquoise green color, which I think will work nicely. I think regardless, it's going to be pretty cool. So, but I want this to be quick and textural. I'm not going to lose my mind painting this thing. But I want it to be quick and textural. I want it to look good. I'm actually going to gift it to a friend of mine when I'm done. So I want it to look cool. So first things first, a little yellow ochre. And you're going to recognize this is my standard kind of yellow recipe. So yellow ochre. Excuse me. A little bit of the burned flesh. Yes. And then gold yellow from Game Air. Hang on. Waiting for paint to dry is my least favorite thing. So, but we just don't. So there's that gold yellow that just gives that nice saturation, blends those layers, and boom. Good looking golden yellow. It's actually, no. Now we'll let that dry. And while that's drying, we're going to take, this is a 2mm tape here. I'm going to try and get a measurement here of how wide this is. There we go. So that is a little bit more than looks to be about like 13 millimeters. So we're looking at like right there. And I'm doing this because I don't want to cut on the plastic. You'll see what I mean here in just 1 second. Let's get plenty of this off here. And then well, this is thin. Okay. Now, because I don't want to cut on the plastic, I'm going to do this on the cutting board. But I want that, I need that right angle on the sides. And so what I'm going to do is then make a dot here. And then find the straight edge of this. Whoops. There you go. And then get here we go. And I'm going to cut the right down the line there. And this should, keyword being should, be just the right size to go across that without any cutting. Neat trick. That is a little small. I'm going to end up cutting on the resin anyway. No, that's okay. There was some ink on my glove, and that ink transferred over to the yellow. So now I have black splotches on the yellow, which, you know, is unfortunate. But it's fine. I actually feel like I make way more mistakes like that when I'm wearing gloves than when I'm not. Because I can feel it on my, like on my finger. But that's okay. This thing was never going to be pristine anyway. And then there we go. Okay, so that was a good idea, except for the fact that as you move down, these are all different lengths. So just going to end up cutting them anyway. It's fine. It was a good try. What? And then that can be used up here, like so. Okay. There we go. And then I still need a couple for shoot, I knew I was going to do that. Darn it. Broke one of the guns off. Okay. Glue that back on in a second. That's the hazard striping for us. And little Vallejo model color black. Okay. And let's see what we have underneath. Well, that's interesting. That could be a good way to do that in the future. So given that the paint isn't like totally dry yet, I'm just dragging the tips of the tweezers over the black and getting some very cool little scratches out of the deal. Oh, shit. Damn it. That went down to the resin. That's not good. So stripes aren't great. Oh, that's okay, except for that. That's not good. That's all the way down to the resin. Which, you know what? People ask me why I don't wear gloves. That's why. It's pain. It's pain. Okay. Not even gonna try and like get that back to yellow. I'm just gonna paint it black, and then the exact details of, you know, how that came to be can be left up to the mystery of the universe. And I was gonna tape this off, but I think what I'm gonna do instead is make it look like most of this actual hazard striping has come off over the years. And so, come on. We're going to use Old Reliable here. And actually, let's stick that gun back on real quick. I shudder to think how many times it's going to break off before I'm done with this piece. It's going to be a few. Where was I? Oh, liquid mask. Mr. Hobby, Mr. Masking Soul Neo, the tried and true. The goat, if you will. A little bit of pluck foam. I'm going to put this on heavy. I want a lot of this hazard striping to survive, just not all of it. So like that seems fine. And just because of the way that this piece is, I should be able to stay just on this one square for the most part without getting leaking down the sides, which is what I want, because obviously I want to cover the rest of this with paint. I think that'll be pretty cool, actually. I think that'll be pretty cool. Actually, I am going to resurrect that glove with this net spark. This is going to get a little squirrely. Oh, just dropped my airbrush. So I do kind of a classic industrial green here. Stegodon scale green for the base. And I'm going to start just kind of with that under shadow. This is going to be extremely kind of rough in general. From a painting perspective, There we go. Look at that. That already looks nice. Next up is going to be Sybarite. Whoops. Sybarite green. Ooh. Running out of this. And put that on my list. That's not good. I mean, it's not hard to find more, but. And this we're going to spray kind of from the top here. Man. Yeah, I'm at the end of the bottle here. Okay. That's all right. Wonder if what hugs. Didn't look like it. Okay. Well, let's just see if we can get through. I think it's just a little overspray here. There we go. And that's like way too saturated. What is going on with the color right now? I mean, I know green is not nice. Camera's favorite color to film, but this is a little. I mean, that's not that. That is far off. Us. It's like right there-ish. Okay. That's fine. And now I'm going to use kind of a secret weapon when it comes to this industrial styling. Hang on. Let me mute. And that is duck egg green. Eau de Nil. Duck egg green is like industrial green. It's an extremely specific color, but it's that color. And I love it. Kind of a washed out green, and then I have this greenish white from AK in my recent travels, which is extremely light, so we're gonna go very light on this, I think, because this is almost white. There you go. That's it. That was kind of a texture spatter. So first, okay, let's do that again. But this time with dark sea blue. Sure. So this is a Vallejo model color dark sea blue, very thin, and this will be almost like a little filter. That last little tail thing gave it some texture. I'll show you in a second. Now I'm spraying this from like a foot away. Just to kind of filter. You give a little more texture. There we go. There we go. That's good. That's what I was looking for. All right, now I'm going to let this dry fully and then come back and do a quick dry brush to pick out all the high areas. And then we'll be done with this stage and we can come back and start picking out a couple details and doing things like that. But I want to zoom in here or focus in. Here we have that texture. That looks kind of, I don't know, it looks like a worn, kind of desaturated building, you know? This is way more washed out than it is in person. I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure why it's having such trouble with the green. I mean, like, that's closer, but that just sucked all the color out. Or it's close. So weird. But specific colors in this video, I think, are less important than than the overall approach. Just taking a more painterly approach, a more kind of loose artistic approach. I'm going to get a spare piece of paper towel. I'm going to get my palette. That pale green, the greenish white. And then I don't want the bristles to be too stiff. That's too loose. Actually, trip this in. trashed dry brush. Work the paint into the bristles. And then just picking out some high spots. There we go. Yeah, we're starting to get there. There we go. All right. And of course, this is a country mile from come on. This is a country mile from where this is going to end up. So we don't need to worry about that right now.
This?
Oh no, that's too much. Right. Now we kind of picked out why. Maybe it's too bright. Is that what? That is much closer. Okay. It's just super overexposed. That makes sense. Okay. That's way closer to where we're at, actually. Sorry about that. And then now, glue back on that piece that just fell off. And then we can come in here. That actually looks really cool. That's a neat way to do that. Okay. That looks pretty cool then. With the hazard stripes like that, with the chipping. Pretty cool. All right, that's it for the kind of airbrush, dry brush, baseline portion of the tutorial. When we come back, I think we're going to be blocking in a lot of metallics and stuff. This thing's really going to be kind of oils and enamels and pigments and stuff to get where we want to be. So this is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. This is going to be a little loose, you know. I think today, real quick, we're just going to block out some metallics and maybe some of like the black elements. I don't want to get bogged too far down into really detailing this. As really, you know, a lot of these elements get painted the exterior color of whatever building, you know, or they're engineered to like blend in with the building. So I don't want to get too carried away here. I'm going to find a nice big brush. And I'm using Vallejo metal color burnt iron. But I do want, so one of the things that this is going to do is it's also going to give an opportunity to add some color and to break up just the large kind of swathes of green. It'll get an opportunity to add some kind of red rust into the equation, which will contrast really nicely. So there's a lot of good reasons to do it. I just don't want to get carried away to where kind of overdo it, over detail it. So I just want to be mindful of that as I'm picking out areas to paint, right? And it doesn't have to be even, it doesn't have to make sense really. Well, it has to make some kind of sense, ideally. Fan blades here I will paint though. Just so it's kind of easily identifiable. And then I'm going to grind that up after anyway, so can't wait to get to the oil paint stage of this. That's going to be clutch. And then, you know, some enamels and pigments. This I want to carry through. Otherwise, it looks like it ends behind this hose, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Got that. We got that big fan. This I'm going to leave mostly untouched, I think. Get the pipes here. Fans. Again, those will get almost certainly get the scorching treatment with the inks we're done. So pipes. Where it doesn't just look like a handrail. Get the guns here. Another fan. Give me this part here. That's cool. I feel like I need something in the middle, though. And like that. Seems a little bit more. Not quite there. Close. You can see. That's one of the fun things about doing a project like this is really like whatever I want to do. It's fine. For that, no, I don't want to do these because then they just look like, well, I feel like they're, yeah, okay. I feel like they might look unnatural, but they also feel like they should be metallic. There we go. Yep, I was right. Okay. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to come in and do these too. They might overshadow the guns, but that's okay. Do scorching on them, adopt the guns, or leave them. These almost look like little vents. This could be a nice little kind of detail around the piece here. Burnt iron. All right. That's probably good. And then gonna take magic blue. It's gonna be very quick and dirty. quick and dirty windows. It's going to look kind of too saturated. I think it's going to stand out, I think, too much initially, but after they get grimed up a little bit, I'm sure it'll be fun. So I'm not really that worried about it at this stage. It'll be like the only part of the whole thing that will be painted with precision. So we got the magic blue there. And then light sea blue. And I'm using the air paints because they're very, very thin. Which I put it back around. You cut. Losing my mind a little bit. Sorry. So just a quick, that was it, literally. And then pastel blue, sure. This is just like a almost white. Got a blue. Get a sharp brush here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do little diagonal lines. Kind of looks like windows, right? Right. Okay. And then, of course, a very strong edge. I wonder if this brush finally gave up the ghost on the Emperor's Champion. This brush has been strong for a long time, way past kind of when it had any right to be. I was wondering. Okay, that's good. Those look like windows. So that's kind of where the elite might lay their heads at night. And then you need a little bit of black here to pull out some of these cables. Vallejo model black, of course. Though again, like the specific colors for this project are much, much, much less important than, you know, the actual project. So oh, and then this little just get the black of the That's really going to make a difference, but I do want this coming out of here to be the black. And something over here. And it's just like this. This has to be something. Okay. And then I can even just mix that black and pale blue that I already had on the palette to get a gray. Any gray, doesn't matter what gray, and then do a quick there we go. All right. That, as they say, is that. So let that dry. And when we come back next time, we're going to jump in with some oils and really get to griming this thing up and getting it on its way to completion. I mean, I think it's super cool. So next time when we come back, we're gonna do oils. We're gonna be working on Dermis Imperia, and we're gonna be doing the oil wash portion of this project. I can't wait. I'm really excited. This is gonna be cool. So this is where I think this is really gonna come to life. You're really gonna see a lot of the detail, and we're going to start to grime it up a little bit. So I have my kind of package of, or my container of oil washes here. I have my pre-mixed oil washes. So this is my standard black and standard black and burnt umber. I also have, I think I'm gonna have to make more of that. And then I also have, from my friend Eric, this Absalon 502 called Starship Filth, which is, actually, I'm gonna do Starship Filth. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna make more of this right now. I'll still use that, but I'm not gonna make more of it. And then I have a reddish. I have a couple different reds that I use. I have a violet that I use. So I'm just going to see where this takes me. So that's the fun thing about oils, is you can do any number of things and get an interesting result. So give me 1 second here. So I had to grab a salsa cup for the Starship Filth. So first things first, a little Artist White Spirit. This out of the frame. Still really need that. And then probably a lot. This is like a greenish gray. Which obviously works well with the palette that we're working with there. I'm already getting this all in my hands. It's all good. So this kind of green-gray color, I think, is going to be perfect. No varnish, because I want this to really have an effect. I want it to tint and filter the kind of pastel green that we got going on here. So we're going to lay this on. And that you can see that capillary action. I have not used that much of this wash yet, but that capillary action really carrying a lot of it, covering a lot of ground, which is what it does. So functioning as intended. And look at that. That's a nice darken this whole thing down, get a lot of definition on those windows. This is going to be great. This is going to be a cool piece. I hope Eric likes it. Different Eric. I got Starship Fill from my one friend, Eric. This is going to my other friend, Eric, who recently moved into a new place and mentioned that he needed some art on the walls. And when I was building this, he had said how cool he thought it was. So it seemed like the perfect opportunity to brighten his day. So when this is done, I'll be sending it to Minnesota. But I hope he likes it, so I'm pretty sure he will. He's a pretty easygoing guy. And this thing's pretty freaking cool, so I like this Starship Felt. This is a nice thing we got going on here. I want to get plenty in that kind of back. Oh, I knew it. I mean, I probably could have been a little more careful, but we're about to have one gun on that platform. Put that one off to the side. And if I remember to put it back on, because now that the oils are involved and stuff, it's going to be a couple steps before I'm able to glue anything back onto this. Make sure to get all the metal. This Starship Filth is cash money. This is a great oil paint. I've used it a little. I haven't used it kind of this extensively. Or, I mean, I haven't really used it on this wide of a palette before, but this stuff is great. Yeah. I love Absalom 502 oils. I think they're fantastic. I need to get more of them. Maybe for Christmas this year. Maybe that's what I'll do for myself. For Christmas is get a bunch of Absalom oils. So that's the initial pass with the Starship Filth. And what we can do is let's hit it with a little paper towel just to give it a little variation. Oh, that's a lot of... That's fine. There's a ton, like, it's not like I'm going to run out of, oils anytime. This is a little bit darker, my standard black and burnt umber. Should probably wait for this to dry, actually. Well, black and burnt umber. Let's go with this kind of redder, much redder brown. And then this is that violet that I use for my blood angels, actually. Mix that up a little bit. Obviously, that'll get worked in. I don't know. That could have been a terrible idea. Who knows? This is kind of a different kind of reddish brown there. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that violet is really standing out right now, so I might come in and try and pick up a little bit of that. Let me mute this so that I can... Okay. That's just to kind of speed up the process. It's not going to be fully dry, so I'm going to let that dry. That kind of messed up a couple areas here. So what it does sometimes is that will push oils out of the recesses. I want to get that violet. I mean, I like the violet here and there. I think it was a little bit heavy. Did a couple giant dollops here. But the nice thing about working with oils is you just go back over it and clear that up real quick. I think those little splotches of violet and stuff are going to be cool. So here we have kind of a second pass now. Here to reinforce some of that. Ooh, that's looking good. This is looking good. Just need to let it dry. Just need to be patient. So I'll let this dry and then come back to it with the Q-tips. Maybe I'll just start with a paper towel and see how that goes. But I think I was also a little too light with the oils the first time around. This is looking much better, much grimier. Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. Okay. And I'm actually going to leave this standing up to dry so that kind of floats, everything flows towards the bottom, which would happen naturally. And then we're going to let that dry. So we'll be back in a little bit. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to take probably at least a half hour. So we'll be back. Okay, and we're back. And this is pretty well dried. There's a couple little tiny spots like up here that aren't quite 100%, but that's fine. I'm not worried about that. So the overwhelming majority is dry. So a little white spirit in the salsa cup there. And just start, and I'm only going to work, I only really want to work vertically, because this is all going to flow. It is all going to flow downhill. So I really only want to work vertically. I don't want to take too much of this stuff off, really. I know I still have enamels and stuff to work with, but I don't want to take too much of this off. So very rough, obviously. Not really. No real plan. I do want to lighten a little bit. I'll kick that out. There's a big splotch of nowhere violet. But we're still extremely grimy, right? We're not cleaning this thing up by any stretch of the imagination, nor should it be clean. We'll clean the windows a bit, but this is going to stay. But I do think that violet and certainly the browns and adds just a little more character, a little more texture. That's just a little more color, I think, rather than just being monotonal, which doesn't look natural, right? So we want this to be sort of realistic, evocative. I think that's looking pretty good. Pretty good. Oh no. Just being very aware of not doing too much here. I think that looks great. I think it looks great. I'm gonna let that dry. And then when we come back, you can mess around with some enamels. I don't know that I'm really going to include pigments. Pigments have like a dryness to them that I don't think necessarily works here. So I may just do enamels and scorching and call it done. Varnish and call it done. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I'm gonna let that dry. I'm gonna leave it sitting up like that so everything kind of settles towards the bottom. Maybe we'll do this while everything's still kind of in this wetness, this milieu of. I keep saying I'm going to stop, and then I'm just like, let's keep going. So I have track wash, streaking grime, slimy grime dark, slimy grime light, and we're just going to go and do whatever we want. All right. Throwaway brush. Where are you? Oh, that's one there. Let's do this one. Maybe one. I need a bigger brush. All right, sacrificial craft brush time. Really one of the best times. Stupid. Too much. Let's do this one. Just a synthetic, whatever. Get some of this. What is the streaking grime? Yeah. Because this will actually work with the white spirit a little bit as well. So we're gonna get that. We're gonna get a little bit of this track wash here. Those are gonna be good, sort of main characters, but really I want to get this slimy grime. That's the one I really want to get some saturation, color saturation here. And like greens, moldiness, little mold to the underhive. This isn't even the underhive. This is like the middle hive. This is like working class hive here. Or, I don't know. Who knows? Do whatever you want it to do. All right, so thank you for your service, little synthetic brush. And then now I'm going to close all these up before I spill them. Obviously, that's not going to work how it is right now. So I'm going to show you how I think we can work with that to get some pretty cool effects. So probably overdid it, but it's a theme. Overdoing it is a theme with this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a soft bristled flat brush and a paper towel. This has a little bit of that white spirit in it, so I'm going to just get this damp. And then just work vertically. To get some streaking. Which is much easier, I will say, on a flat surface. So this works, I think, a lot better on a flat surface, but we're going to go for it. Oh no, that definitely works. Start at the top and just work down. So you can see on the kind of the outpost there. See that streaking down the side? Pretty good. And we pass over it again and we kind of lighten that up. Make it less. Just make it less, because that's a lot of streaking. Almost just working as a filter at this quantity of just how much I splashed on there, which, you know, is not bad. So here we're just working. It also adds a lot to the verticality of just the whole look, I think. There we go. Not quite as saturated. Saturation's, I mean, it's fine. It just doesn't have to be everywhere on the full piece. It can be in some places more than others. So let's get this evened out here. I want to avoid kind of those perfect drops. I want to make sure that I get most of them, if not all of them. This is also helping to push grime into the lower parts of each section, which is perfect. Think so. Yeah, this is adding a lot of verticality to this, which is nice. Bums. Oh. Little red. I think that's pretty good. And I'll zoom in so we can, or not zoom in, focus in so that we can really see what I'm talking about with those vertical, so you can see That's awesome. Not gonna lie, it just has me thinking about Imperial Guard, Sisters of Battle type flavor here. Necromunda actually would probably be the best place for something like this, but naturally. That eagle down there needs a little to clean. Super cool. I'm really, 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 really happy with this. Look at that texture. Really happy with this. That's rad. How cool. I love this hobby. All right. Well, that was neat. So thanks for your support. Thanks for following along, checking this out. I hope you enjoyed. And really just seeing, you know, this kind of there's a baseline kind of level of techniques and just little tricks that you can learn, and then you apply it to whatever the hell you're painting. Those windows don't look totally out of place now. I'm leaving the one gun just because the other one, you know, it's fine. And this looks pretty good. I might just varnish this and be done with it. Or with the scorching. I need to do the scorching, but I have to wait for everything to dry before I do that. So we're going to let this dry. I'm going to go eat lunch and whatnot. And hopefully by the time I get back, this is dry enough to do the scorching and the final varnish. And then I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. So thank you again for your support. Thanks for following along. If you have any questions, please leave them below so that everybody can see the answer. And we'll see you soon to finish this piece up. We're going to be finishing up the Dermis Imperia project and a little vignette. Looking pretty good. So you can see how much more matte everything is after it's dried. Although there's still some shine. There's still definitely some shine to the whole piece. That's okay. We're going to take care of that here in a minute. First things first. We're going to do a little bit of scorching here and there. Nothing too major, because I really don't want it to take over the piece. I need to order some more ink, clearly. So this is just De La Rowney FW, what is this, burnt umber? It's fine. And we're going to go in just on some of these vents here. And then vents behind the little lookout there. That's not very even, but that's fine. I'm not particularly worried about it. So try to do too much there. Okay. And then This is FW ink. This is the black. Just on a smaller area, right in the middle of the vents. Also on these kind of pipes there. I think that's probably good. Mardellis. And then a little bit of the Vallejo matte acrylic varnish. Yeah. So I'm just going to hit those areas that we did the scorching first. Before really doing an overall. I mean, this is not going to come into contact with anything ever. It's going to be literally going to be behind glass, so it doesn't have to be crazy, but it's pretty good. Yeah, I think we can call that done. Right. And then if you remember, I had the frame for it already modified in the first video, which I'll link. What? Got a little dusty. Okay. Mean to do a better job cleaning the glass, but hey, for our purposes here today, this will do. So we have the shadow box. I'm gonna back out a little bit now. And here we have the shadow box, and I cut off the foam. So just make sure that that's the top, obviously, so we can hang it. And do one of these. And then tip. That's the tip. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. There it is. Dermis Imperia. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool, I have to say. Doesn't really show up how cool it is on camera, but this is cool. I'm super happy with that. Hope my friend likes it. I know he will. Yeah, clean it up a little bit. And get it in the mail. So I hope you enjoyed. This tutorial series. I encourage you to try to do something like this. I mean, you saw, I have no idea how to compose something like this until I did it. And, you know, the building was very fluid. The painting was very fluid. I just kind of had a vision of what I wanted to do and put it together. So I encourage you to try it. It was a lot of fun. It's very rewarding. I can definitely see myself doing more of these, either as, you know, gifts or for my own, you know, for my own wall. It's just a cool thing. So, yeah, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below so that everybody can see the answer. And thanks for following along. This one was fun. This was a cool little project. So thanks again. And we'll see you soon for another one. See what we come up with next. So thank you. Have a great day. That's so cool. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Be well. And the Emperor protects.